Hi, thank you for taking the time, and I'm humbled to get to spend time with you today. I'm John Rossman. I'm a partner at the advisory firm of Alvarez & Marsal. I have been for 12 years. Prior to A&M, I was at Amazon. I got to run two businesses at Amazon. I launched and scaled the third-party selling marketplace at Amazon, so that's third-party selling at Amazon.com. And I ran the enterprise services business, where we ran other large retailers' e-commerce infrastructure for them. As I left Amazon and went to my client work, helping them make digital change, I saw the impact of the thinking and the strategy and the approaches from Amazon in helping my clients make change. I wrote The Amazon Way on IoT to help business leaders think through and answer the question, what should my IoT strategy be? Today, Amazon is a massive conglomerate business. Think through the businesses that are actual go-to-market businesses, right? So there's obviously the retail business, there's the marketplace business, which is a different business, there's AWS, there's a devices business, there's a content business, there's a logistics business, there's several others that I'm not thinking about. Many of those use IoT to drive and improve those businesses. The way that Amazon is able to be a massive organization and avoid the big B word, bureaucracy, at Amazon is through the principles of leadership there. And so today, I wanted to help you think through and answer the question, what should my IoT strategy be by using the leadership principles of Amazon? Sound good? Great, because it's all I'm prepared for. So first, and probably the audience I don't need to talk to this slide about, which is what is the Internet of Things? And so on one layer, IoT is the great technologies, the sensors, the connectivity, the cloud computing, the algorithms and analytics. But on a more important basis, IoT is what really allows the physical and analog world to have a digital twin. I remember a meeting at Amazon, it was 2004. It was the day that Salesforce.com went public, and we were in an S-team meeting, and somebody before the meeting made the comment like, oh, Salesforce is the world's largest CRM company. And Bezos jumped up, and he goes, we are the world's largest CRM company. And he went on to talk about how digitally native businesses always had an advantage over analog and traditional businesses and retailers because our business was engineered to collect massive amounts of data. And what IoT does is it helps level the playing field between digitally native and e-commerce businesses with analog businesses, because today now analog businesses can have that same advantage of lots of data to better understand their customers and better understand their operations. That is what IoT is about. So as I started thinking about how does IoT impact the business, I came back to my youth of playing basketball. I wasn't that very good. And when you learned to play basketball back in my era, you learned about what was called the triple threat. And the triple threat position in basketball is a position where from one position a player can dribble, pass, or shoot the ball, put in the offensive player with as many options as possible, and puts the defensive player having to defend all three of those. And as I thought through how does IoT impact a business, it became clear to me that IoT can help you reinvent customer experiences, it can help you improve business operations, and it can help you invent and create new business models and new go-to-market models. But more importantly, from any one of those, you can oftentimes pivot and go to new ones. And so it's always important to, although you plan around projects and specific steps, you need to appreciate the journey that you're on and that it's not always going to be predictable. And so to do things in scalable, encapsulated manners so that you can proceed to the next great idea. So let's start with the first one. Improving the customer experience with IoT. I'm going to walk through some examples from Amazon that I think most are going to be pretty familiar to you. So the first is the Amazon Dash Wand. This is really what started the device business for Amazon. It was primarily intended for a pantry and for a customer to be able to either talk, scan a UPC code, or take a photo and get product information and to reorder an item. It never went out of beta, so it never really went into scale. That quickly transitioned to the now fairly famous Dash button. Hundreds of brands are now sponsoring their brands to be on Dash buttons. It's a great placement. It's a great advertisement for a customer right at the point of need. Who here owns a Dash button? Right? Really? Not that many. That's surprising. So the next generation of Dash buttons are actually incorporated into the product. So Brita water filters will, using the same essentially software that goes into a Dash button, will reorder a water filter based on actual usage and actual cleanliness of the water filter. The Brita spokesperson has a great quote, which is, "The moment of running out is a really bad customer experience." And if you think about how many non-repetitive customer moments there are where there's a moment of running out, a bad customer experience, where having a sensor and an alert and an insight to either tell the customer of what's to come or completely take care of it for them is a great customer experience and a great customer opportunity. So find the moments of running out in your business and use IoT to improve upon those. The next example is, of course, the Amazon Echo. But what's powerful about the Echo is the Alexa software that's inside, right? A voice recognition, machine learning, event, and integration platform. That's really what Alexa is. So Amazon is inventing the next great computer man-machine interface, right? If a lot of us probably have been through the complete history of computer people interfaces, from the green screen to WYSIWYG to the great mobile experiences that we have today, voice is going to be the next great interface. And think about how many great moments and places there are where hands are busy and where voice is going to be the superior opportunity to interface for people. And I think voice is going to be a very exciting opportunity for IoT, for commerce, and to deliver value. The last example is actually the one that I think is most illustrative of these principles. This is a beta initiative in Germany. It's a partnership between Amazon, DHL, and Audi. It allows a customer to order an item, have it delivered to their car. The DHL person gets the location of the car, a one-time electronic fob to put the package in. They close the trunk. Customer gets alerted, and the fob is disabled. What a great customer experience. Two key points I think that you should take out of this. One is that partnerships that can run true real-time operations and transactions like that are going to be a very important capability for companies that really have no basis for running partnerships like that. And the second is, although I'm sure that the finance organizations were involved and well aware, there's no way that you could create a business case that would outline what the ROI is for this type of scenario. So many bets and innovations, while you want to go into them with your eyes wide open about what the economics might be, if you purely let those drive the things that you do, you would probably never try a scenario like this because you would be making up the numbers as you go. And I think finally, the most important thing to take from this is that Amazon, a company that is famous for customer trust and for great customer experience, continues to work to refine and innovate the customer experience. And I think that if a company like Amazon can continue to improve the customer experience, most of us can probably ask, how can we improve the customer experience in our business? So the second opportunity in the triple threat of IoT is improving business operations. I think there's nothing easier to get centered on than around worker safety. And so I wanted to talk through a couple of examples there. So the first is this vest. It's a prototype that goes on a road worker. When a car is fast approaching in perhaps an unsafe manner, they get haptic feedback to be alert and to be aware of that car approaching. And it's also designed to be able to give two-way feedback to the car to warn them of a worker in the area and to slow down. This report on the future of firefighting highlights, I think, a very important trend within IoT. The report talks about that there are essentially 3 layers of opportunity for IoT and firefighting. The first is around managing the individual firefighter and the important information that you can get around that. The second is around once you have instrumentation and monitoring on one firefighter, then you can coordinate between a team of firefighters. And when you can coordinate between a team of firefighters, then you can start coordinating across an entire building and an entire dynamic situation across many services that would be managing that situation. And so I think the value proposition of IoT is often going to follow that network effect, where you start with solving for an each, and then you figure out how to coordinate across multiple of those eaches. And then you figure out in a heterogeneous way how to coordinate across different groups of items in order to create value. So again, it's important to understand that it's a journey in IoT, and you need to go about things in a way that let you fail and move forward and to advance your thinking and capabilities. Who here knows Amazon's initial name? It was relentless.com. If you type in relentless.com today, it still resolves to Amazon. And obviously, although they don't use that as their brand, I can tell you firsthand, it represents their attitude towards seeking operational improvements and always striving for perfection. So whether the operational improvement methodology is Greenbelt, Six Sigma, statistical process control, other different methodologies, they all rely upon a couple of things. First is they all rely on data. And one of the things that IoT allows you to do is to have an abundance of data and cheap data and from sources that you never thought of before. And so think of IoT as the mechanism to let you take your operational improvement initiatives to the next layer. If you read GE's last annual report, they talk about how they're going all in on digital and IoT, internally and externally. And so they are using IoT to drive and identify the next wave of operational improvements within their organization. I had a client one time challenge me, and he said, "John, I don't know if there's many operational improvement opportunities within their organization." And I sat back and I said, I think that if General Electric, probably the best organized and operated company at scale that there is, if they can find opportunity in operational improvements using IoT, my bet is that within your organization you can too. So use IoT as a way to take your operational improvement methodologies to the next generation. So that picture there is a picture of an Amazon fulfillment center. That's a Kiva robot at the bottom. So that robot brings a tray of items to a picker. The robot does what it does best, which is transport a tray of items. The human does what they do best, which is to select an item, put it into a box, arrange it with other items. That man-machine collaboration is a great model that will continue to enhance. But at Amazon, the use of algorithms and automation doesn't stop with the shop floor or blue-collar work. It impacts all of the white-collar work that's going on too. When I was at Amazon, there were people ordering POs from merchants. There were people that were coordinating trucks to be delivered to fulfillment centers. Today, none of that exists. All of that is done with algorithms. And so IoT puts you on that path of doing the math in your business, forcing you to take the first steps to identify the rules or the equations that describes the work that goes on. And if you can't describe the work that goes on in terms of a process and the metrics and the math that define that, then you don't have good process engineering yet. So use IoT as that forcing function to define world-class processes and to take them on a path towards doing the math so that you can put algorithms to them and you can continue to reinvent the way that work gets done. So the last opportunity within the triple threat of IoT is to build new business and new service models. So this is a picture of, I think, a pretty well-known case where Rolls-Royce sells quality airlift by the hour. So sensors and IoT capability, if your products are good enough and your services are good enough, can allow you to transition from selling products and services to selling outcomes. At Amazon, one of the flavors of that is thinking through what the platform opportunity is. So Amazon is fairly famous for its notion of platform businesses. At Amazon, and I think a lot of other definitions, a platform business is a core capability that you turn inside out. Others can not only leverage it and use it, but they can innovate on top of it, typically through APIs, always in a self-service manner so that it can scale. Everybody here is familiar with Amazon Web Services, AWS, right? Most people think that AWS started from a strategy, a notion, an insight that we could disrupt the traditional hardware and software procurement and licensing business. It didn't start that way. When I was at Amazon, teams owned everything from product management, software engineering, through infrastructure. So I had teams that managed all of those. At some point, it got obvious that we weren't taking the advantage of the economies of scale and we weren't getting operational excellence in our infrastructure. And so we said, great, we're going to separate the infrastructure teams from the software teams. And the infrastructure team said, we'll provide you with interfaces and tools so that you can manage, provision, and report on your infrastructure usage. And I was in a meeting one time, about 40 people with Bezos, and he says, that's great, but here's the problem. All of you are friends, you're all colleagues, and so you try naturally to try to get along. I want the infrastructure team to have external customers because only external customers are going to demand excellence and are going to give you ideas and feedback to take it from good to great. And we need great in order for this to work for our vision of the retail business. And so he forced them to have external customers. And then when they saw the reaction from the market, from developers on on-demand infrastructure, that's how they said, wow, we have a real business here. So the opportunity for other businesses is to ask themselves, what are our core capabilities? And is there an opportunity to turn them inside out and to make them world-class enough to find external clients and to serve those clients? And even if you don't go down that path, simply asking yourself, what would it take to make my core capabilities world-class enough so that I could have external clients with self-service capabilities, with APIs, with high reliability SLAs, you'll find opportunities to improve and innovate upon your businesses. Within IoT, oftentimes there are opportunities for companies based on the physical location of their product or their device, the perch of that product, to become a platform business. Other companies might find value in having access to the data and events that could be captured from your physical product. That is the platform opportunity specific to IoT. It's not an opportunity for everybody. In fact, it may be an opportunity for just a select few. But asking yourself the capability, who else could find value in the data and events that could be observed from my perch, is a business opportunity presented by IoT. So Amazon leadership principle number 7 is think big, but my addition to that is but think small. So thinking small is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Leaders create and communicate a bold vision that inspires results. They think differently and look around corners for ways to serve customers. Sounds great, but don't confuse thinking big with betting big. The key to innovation is figuring out how do we make true bets in the business, make them small so that we can afford to let them be trials and to fail and to move forward. And so as you look at the most innovative companies in the world, they have a natural ability of being able to understand the differences between big bets and small bets and how to make things as small as possible when they're in trial mode. So let's walk through the specific ways and the specific techniques that we used at Amazon whenever we were articulating a new project or a new proposal. And there's lots of ways to do these. This is just one way. I can tell you these are the authentic things that Amazon does, and you can Google all of these and find additional references to them. So the first is really our portfolio view of our investments. So this is a graph that shows the potential benefit on the y-axis and the project risk along the x-axis. Most companies are very good at kind of that lower left and middle central quadrants, which are the lower benefit but highly predictable projects, right? We build a new fulfillment center, we launch a new product, we have a new project. Nice benefit, highly predictable, they should be successful. What most companies aren't very good at is that upper right quadrant, which is the high benefit, high failure quadrant. But again, the key to that quadrant is creating small circles, making them small bets so that you can actually fail. Bezos talks about this in his last shareholder letter, and he starts off by saying, I believe we are the best place in the world to fail. Heck of an opening line for a shareholder letter, right? He goes on to talk about how most large organizations embrace the idea of invention, but are not willing to suffer the string of failed experiments necessary to get there. And so if your company and if your leadership team truly wants to innovate, they need to understand the connected nature between innovation and failure. And in order to do that, you have to govern those projects in a different way than you govern the projects that are in that typical lower left quadrant. So think through the governance model for the high right bets versus the low left projects that should be successful. The next thing we did at Amazon is we always followed the mantra, start with the customer and work backwards. And so here were the ways that we went about articulating a project. The first is you don't use PowerPoint at Amazon. Ironic, right? PowerPoint is good for things like this, which are essentially cued speaker points. But what PowerPoint is really bad at is being passed on, right? It doesn't scale. It doesn't allow teams to easily explain and explore a topic in simple but complete terms. So at Amazon, all projects, all proposals, all ideas are articulated in a narrative format, either 2 pages or 6 pages. There's 2 big benefits to always articulating your projects in a narrative. The first is that by writing them, it's a great process that allows everybody to contribute, right? And the best ideas should win, and it forces you to get clear and make sure that you're really connecting on exactly what are we proposing. Value there. The second big benefit is that when you deliver them to the team that needs to digest, do we make this investment or not, they're forced to read them. So a meeting at Amazon starts with 15 minutes of silence to read the narrative, and then discussion ensues. Forcing teams to both articulate their ideas as a narrative and then digest them allows for clarity to be gained, and then the ideas can be passed forward to others. It allows the ideas to scale. The second thing we did was we always wrote a future press release. So a future press release is a short page that allows an idea to be announced to the world, right, to the organization. You would always start with, what was it about my product or my service that delighted customers? The next thing was you would talk about either the metrics or the business case that defended or the idea or that you would use to evaluate its success. But the third part of the future press release was really the magic. In the third part, You would outline what were the tough issues and the big boulders and perhaps the organizational changes that we had to contemplate in order to achieve this vision. You wouldn't talk about what you did to achieve them because you haven't done the work yet. But in that way of being able to communicate and talk about all the topics necessary in the organization, it allowed you to give that future press release to one individual to drive across the organization, helping to create speed and avoid the bureaucracy. I wrote the future press release for the marketplace business at Amazon. There was one line that was critical. A seller in the middle of the night will be able to register, list an item, sell a product as though Amazon, the retailer, delivered it. A pretty simple sentence, but it imposed a tremendous amount of obligation and work to do in the organization. There was over 26 teams that needed to be involved on just the self-service registration pipeline. None of these teams reported to me. I would go to somebody and say, hey, how's your work going on the registration pipeline? And they say, John, I'm sorry. Some other things became priorities. I don't know if we'll be able to make the dates. And I would say, no problem. Why don't you come up to the S team with me and help explain why a third-party seller in the middle of the night won't be able to register? Guess what would happen? Reverse course. Oh, God, we'll figure out a way to do it, right? So it was a nice but enforceful manner that I was able to avoid the organization, avoid bureaucracy, get really hard things done, and drive progress in a very fast manner. Always start and develop an FAQ, simply a list of questions that come up through your exploration of the topic or idea. Always be collecting the FAQs. And if you're always thinking about what are the questions that are being asked and what are the answers, you're going to get really good at understanding those things in entirety. And the last thing we would do before we did anything else, before we cut any code, is we would write a user's manual. If you can't write a user's manual up front, you probably don't really understand what you're building towards. This is the way that we ran projects and built products at Amazon. It takes an intense amount of effort, especially as you're transitioning to it. It isn't about speed. It's about getting to clarity and mutual understanding on ideas. So why is it so important for organizations to be reinventing the customer experience, to be driving operational improvements, and to be building new business and new business models? So there's lots of ways, right? That's digital disruption. There's lots of ways to evaluate it. This is one way. This is simply the Fortune 1000, a stacked rank list of companies by revenue. And what it says is that in the next decade, over 80% of the companies that are in the Fortune 1000 today will be replaced by new companies. And I ask myself, with all the advantages of incumbency, of having customers, of having insights, of having revenue, of having size and scale, of being in the market, how is it that small companies always beat big companies? It's crazy. I think it comes down to this is essentially a change challenge. And the change challenge is this, is it's too hard for leaders to avoid answering questions with, this is the way we've always done things here, right? That's the natural bias, is to let your past define your future and to take those things that have worked for you in the past and let them define the ways that you go about things in the future. Bezos talks about it this way. The death knell for any enterprise is to glorify the past, no matter how good it was. IoT is about creating business value and about creating change. And if you're not careful about understanding your past and what things from it do we need to carry forward, but what things do we need to evolve and change, you won't be able to be successful to take full advantage of it. So I hope I've given you some ideas today to help answer the question, what should my IoT strategy be? I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. I hope it's a great kickoff to a great week here at IoT Evolution. And please reach out to me, and thanks again.